Yeah, that's how we'll start this episode, with that real weak burp. I'm Joseph Craven, and this is You'll Never Talk Alone. We got Alex Level, we got Andrew Ainsworth. Andrew has been working on some pasta, just the sickest looking pasta I've ever seen, in a good way, sick, of course.
That's DiGiorno.
Is that the term? Is that the proper term?
That's DiGiorno.
Yeah, we all know that.
Pasta pie.
That's DiGiorno. All right. Well, this has been You'll Never Talk Alone. That's all we got for you this week. Thanks for tuning in. We are here to talk about the first match of the season. We're here to talk about how dominant it was. We're here to talk about what we have to look forward to going up against Crystal Palace. But first, let's talk about some of the big news from Liverpool in the past week. Number one thing being this bizarre Dejan Lovren situation. Alex, I believe recent reports are saying he's out for about 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I saw today.
It's it's a weird one. What do we make of this? Apparently he, had suffered some sort of injury, but so it seems like he didn't really tell anybody until the transfer window had closed. What do we make of this here, Alex?
Well, it's pretty typical that one of our center backs gets hurt because they're all just extremely fragile. And we better hope that Joe Gomez is able to last for those 3 weeks and stay fit, so we're not running with Fabinho or Grujic or Shamal George at center back. I don't know if he told the club, if he didn't tell the club. It's weird. Mm-hmm. We know that we probably should have looked at a center back, but again, it's hard to be dissatisfied with our window. But that if we were going to add one more player, that's probably where we needed one. And as much as people like Lovren the person and dislike Lovren the player most of the time, there are some iffy details that might bring the perceptions closer together.
Yeah, I know for example, when we were first talking about this and texting about this, our friend Zach Osborne was not amused, was very, very upset by it. Andrew, what was your reaction to the fact that, well, first of all, that he's hurt and out for a little bit? Thankfully, only 3 weeks. At first it's like, is he out for the season? I mean, that would be kind of our luck. But what was your reaction to the whole story, including the shadiness around it?
I'm really not surprised. I think he wants everything he can possibly have at Liverpool. He wants to be the best defender of all time.
Which he is. We all know that now.
And he can't have someone else coming in and taking his spot. So he's just going to hide it. He's going to do what he can and then come back into the lineup in 3 weeks and cause an error or score an own goal. Or what's going to happen is Van Dijk is going to be the man that he is and push him to the ground and say, nope, you're not playing anymore.
You're done. While you were gone, I became best friends with Joe Gomez, and now he is the only person I will team up with.
I like the addition of the detail of pushing Lovren to the ground.
Yeah. Don't you know that's a very common thing for Van Dijk to do? He tells his teammates very calmly, stop the effing cross, and then he pushes them into the ground. It's just his way of teaching them a lesson. Are we really surprised, though, that – well, I guess no, not surprised. Were we ever really worried? Should he have been worried, I guess, that he was going to get replaced? Because let's be honest, I mean, was there actually a chance we were ever going to sign another center back despite how badly we need it?
Absolutely not. I mean, look at he had probably his best run of games at the end of the season. He had a good World Cup, and look at how he's played the 2 seasons before, and we didn't replace him before. So why would we replace him now after we didn't replace him the 2 seasons before that?
Plus, ownership has to be looking at how much they spent to get Van Dijk in there, and they're like, is this how all of these players at this position cost? We don't want to pay this anymore. yes, I do still believe that FSG has no idea how the business actually operates. Just so everyone's clear. It's bizarre. I hope it's not as shady as it seems, and I hope this is ultimately a lingering, because I mean he also was in the World Cup all the way up to the final. So if other players are talking about needing some recovery time from World Cup play, he needs it more than anyone else, But I hope it's not as shady. Either way, I'm very glad that it's only 3 weeks and it's not a more severe injury, which would make it obviously a much larger story. But I guess it is technically at least 3 weeks. So we'll have to see what happens there. But the other strange story that seems to be coming out right now seems to be it definitely came out. What did I word it?
Looks like it.
we're not sure if this story is out there yet. No. But a man walked up to Mohamed Salah's car and tried to convince him while he's like driving in like traffic, like he stopped at like an intersection, and this dude comes up there and tries to get him to sign a jersey, and then gets really upset when Salah does not roll his window down, and apparently reports him for being on his phone in traffic, which is against the law in Britain. This is the most ridiculous non-story that I think I've ever seen, but it's worth talking about because of how infuriating it is that this man didn't have like the slightest desire to respect the man's like personal life to come up to him during traffic. I mean, is there any other way to look at this? I mean, that's what happened, right? This dude just straight up, I don't know, assaulted Salah basically in a car.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what he did. He apparently there's details coming out that this guy is done this multiple times in the past. Like he will go up and essentially accost players into either signing something or then get them in trouble if they don't sign something. And I know it seems to be club policy that outside of the specific areas, Liverpool players don't sign stuff. And so that's probably why Salah didn't pay attention to him. And he's not obliged to, but I mean, the pattern of behavior from Salah has always been very friendly, very approachable, very open to getting his pictures taken with fans and whatnot. And this guy is just bitter that he didn't get an autograph and submitted just the weakest charge. I know in America, 1-in-1 drivers are on their phone while they're driving. So I don't think there's really an issue, certainly from our side. So
like I'm pretty sure I first saw this story while I was checking my phone at a red light earlier today. Yeah. And I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah. So I mean, if it's against the law, then that sucks. But I really don't think there should be that big a punishment. There should be more punishment for this dickhead that
ran into traffic.
Yep.
Yeah, ran into traffic, being a tattletale, is apparently a douche for all of these kind of situations. So, yeah I'll text him.
Yeah, it's one thing to ask someone for an autograph. It's another thing to go into traffic while he's in the car with his entire family and then bang on the window and get mad at him for not giving you an autograph.
Yep.
I listened to another well-known podcast, not going to mention it because keeping our fans here.
Was that Podcast Ain't Played Nobody by SB Nation?
Oh, no, it was just podcast@podcast.com.
The podcast is an email address.
Yeah. But they have this whole take that they talk about all the time about how men who want autographs are the lowest life form. Like men who go out of their way to get autographs, not just like a guy at a football game getting autographed, like a man going to a practice day after day asking for autographs, like getting little kids to go up to people and ask for autographs is the lowest life form on the planet.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so dumb. And then it's so dumb that this is like you do a quick Google search for Mo Salah and you get BBC.com, Daily Express. You got Fox News even writing up an article about soccer star Mohamed Salah spotted texting while driving, police investigating. Like, that's the story now. And and I don't know. Maybe it is just the fact that we live in reckless, wild, wild west America over here, and it just doesn't mean that much to us. But this has to be the biggest non-story in a sport where, like in Spain, half the stars are refusing to pay their taxes. Like this is what the guy is going to get in trouble for. I don't know. It just is the most overblown nonsense. And
like this, it doesn't need to be in the paper. It's not like he hit the guy with his car. He was just texting. They're blowing it way out of proportion. It's really frustrating.
Well, the only reason we know it's being investigated is because of a tweet from Merseyside police.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? They could just be saying, yeah, we're going to investigate it. Haha, lol, get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. It could be absolutely nothing. But all these headlines are being put up about, oh, he was seen on his phone. Unbelievable. Not to mention he's on his phone while some dude is like trying to tap on his window and get his attention and stuff. Like, maybe he's just feeling awkward and trying to ignore the guy. I mean, that's kind of what I would do. Oh, this guy is trying to bother me. I'm just going to check my phone. It's the dumbest thing. I do wonder what the punishment is in Britain.
Exile.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I guess he's heading back to Egypt
This is pretty serious.
Well, no wonder they're reporting. Why didn't you stop me earlier, Alex?
Like, why do you think Napoleon got exiled?
He's up there at the Battle of Waterloo on his horse, checking his Twitter.
Hang on, don't fire yet.
He's live. He's live tweeting Waterloo.
Y'all
Going well. # oops.
Y'all seen this new Vine thing here, guys?
I'm actually going to look it up. What the punishment for being on your phone while driving in Britain is.
I mean, I just told you.
Oh my god. Okay. Oh, you get 6 penalty points and a 200-pound fine.
What's a penalty point?
I don't know. This is so much more confusing than I thought. So do you have like a grading system? If anyone is listening to this and happens to know how to drive in Britain and what the rules are, let us know, because at this point we're in way over our head. All right, I'm going to keep looking at this, but we're going to move
penalty
on.
Point, we're in way over our head.
Does that mean that somebody gets to like set up a ball and take like a PK at your car or something? Damage your car? I don't know what this means. So we're going to move on to the West Ham review segment here. We opened up the season with a strong victory over a West Ham team that had spent a good amount of cash in an attempt to try to become better than terrible, and it didn't necessarily work out this week. 4-0 victory, 65% possession, 18 shots, 8 on goal. Not only that, but everything was going so well that Daniel Sturridge wandered onto the field and accidentally scored. Just by showing up, he got a goal. It was one of those matches. Alex, our newcomers made their league debuts in Naby Keita, Alisson Becker in particular. Tell us about those performances, because they seemed pretty good.
Well, first off, there were 2 performers that stood out more than any of the new players, and that's Mark Noble and Jack Wilshere throwing their scrotes in line to prevent goals, and just in the process making sure that their lineage ends with them.
I felt so bad for them. That was the most unfortunate.
That hurt just watching. So credit to our accuracy, credit to their bravery. RIP future Wilshires and future Nobles. But yeah, I thought our new signings were fantastic, especially Keita. I mean, you see him play, and I know everybody's been ranting and raving about him, including myself, but he is just incredible. The run he made for the first goal to drift into that space, and a great ball by Trent, one of the few that he actually did hit in that match. A great pass by Trent to find him between those lines, and then he just drove at the defense. And that was the main thing that stood out, is that every time he would get the ball, he would drive at that defense and put them under pressure and make them kind of their pants a little bit. And he was just a game changer, and I'm really happy that he's on the team, and I can't wait to see how his performance with the rest of the midfield and JM7 especially, how they continue to gel and how we continue to improve.
Yeah, the biggest questions leading into the match were who we were going to see in the midfield, and we saw the lineup of Naby, Genie, and the legend, JM7. Andrew, talk about his performance, because he did not miss a step coming off of that Champions League run and leading up this season.
I mean, I'd say that I'd say player of the game, player of the match, best player on the field. I didn't really see his stats. I didn't really care. I was just really happy to see him get an assist.
What do you think of his headband?
It was beautiful. He looks like Skirtle, except if Skirtle was a god that drinks tea.
Yeah, tiny Skirtle. More like Squirtle the Pokemon than anything else.
I mean, he might be final form, you know. But I was really excited to see him. I didn't think he would show up. As I said, like 17 times, like 17 times last podcast, West Ham is fucking awful. So
right.
Yeah, like I said they suck over and over and over again, and I'm still gonna say it. West Ham is awful. I think that they're gonna be in contention to go down to the championship, which could be fun to see them and Stoke playing each other in the championship.
Yeah, really good.
No.
You know, one thing that we forgot to do in our preview episode, or just ran out of time in our preview episode, was to do our yearly tradition of predicting who stays up out of the newly promoted teams and who gets relegated. So we'll have to maybe put up a little blog post, Alex, on our fancy new website, ynta.podbean.com.
Now that is a grand idea.
Thank you. It was basically me telling you, hey man, could you go ahead and write that? That's your homework after this podcast is done. Thanks.
Okay.
I think one of my favorite moments from the West Ham match was the moment that Xherdan Shaqiri was being subbed on and just looked so happy to be there. I had to, pause for a moment to run over and give Klopp a hug. Thanks, Dad, for dropping me off. Please leave me alone. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends. And then he ran onto the pitch. But that being said, we did have, it just seemed like everyone was fired up. Kind of what we had mentioned last episode, where the team looks like they're just ready to get out there and play. They don't look like they're having to prove to themselves or to anyone else that they are contenders. They're just ready to get out there and win. Everyone looks ready to play. Was there anything in the match, Alex, that you saw that, I don't know, maybe it wasn't quite great? It's kind of hard to critique a match that goes the way that this one did, but was there anything that you saw that maybe didn't exactly, look great on us?
You could say that some people still aren't fully sharp, which makes sense because it's the first match of the season. And so I think a little bit of match sharpness was lacking. There were parts where Allison's kicking wasn't bad, but it wasn't as solid as you're used to. And it's understandable. You're making your home debut, and you don't really have much to do for most of the game.
Yeah, so I think he just was bored and distracted.
Pretty much, yeah. And it wasn't bad. He was still making good passes most of the time, but there were some that weren't hit with as much authority as you're used to seeing. If you want to critique a little bit, and it wasn't really bad, it was just something that we had to do without Fabinho or Henderson fully fit. And now as we had kind of a rotating holding mid where Genie and Milner would kind of rotate playing that deepest role. And it didn't really matter much because they didn't have much of the ball. They would panic clear it pretty much every time, or Mikhail Antonio would run with it and dive and get a call. or the referee would tackle it while we were trying to break. But
good
so
God.
it was not really a concern or something bad, but it was just something that was happening and probably won't happen against better opposition. But it did kind of stunt the flow sometimes a little bit. But it's the complete opposite of the question you asked, is that this match showed another evolution of us getting better when we have more possession of the ball. Because that was one thing that plagued us when Klopp first came. It was, you're great when teams are coming at you, but what happens when they're just packing it in and you have more of the ball? And we were able to work it around and create space, and enough space to where the front 3 and 4, really, with Naby joining the fray, were able to pick it up and drive at the defense or work it around their poorly parked bus. So I was really happy with how comfortable everything was.
For sure. And you briefly mentioned the debacle of the official getting in the way and stopping a run. I did not miss English officiating at all. That was terrible, like on both sides, that entire match. I mean, obviously, like, we benefited by getting a goal that we probably shouldn't have. And, West Ham, it's hard to say they benefited when you lose 4-0, but West Ham benefited from a few calls or just absolute terrible mistakes, like the ref being right there in the run of things. Just embarrassing. Oh, well. Now, kind of on the flip side of what I asked you, but what you were just talking about, Alex, one particular player that I think, stood out that maybe I didn't expect much out of, but I ended up being very pleased with his performance, was Joe Gomez. Stepping in, playing center back, what we've said is probably his more natural position. And he's filled in at a fullback in years past, or last season especially, and looked decent defensively, but always looked like a center back trying to play as a fullback. Now he got to be a center back, and I thought he held his own pretty well. Andrew, was there anyone else in the lineup that we haven't really discussed that you feel like really stood out to you in terms of just starting the season off very well?
We can't go without mentioning Mane scoring 2 goals. They weren't spectacular, but I don't think we've been a team that scores insanely spectacular goals lately. We just score 100 goals a game, tapping it in, kind of like Arsenal a little bit. And then Sturridge came out. We mentioned him, but he scored a goal, and as little playing time as he can get with scoring goals is the best thing that he can have. Just keep building that confidence, keep going out there, not getting injured, and just be the player we know he can be. So, I would love Salah scoring another goal or 2 there. He had some more chances. Firmino didn't score, but he was still one of our best players out on the pitch. Genie, I didn't think was at his best. I think he can put out a better game, but no one was bad. Not one single player was bad. Robertson, Andy was great. I mean, there's nothing bad that I can say. Yeah. Fortunately.
Yeah. One observation that I'd made during the match that I think by the time the second half rolled around didn't matter as much was that Trent tended to rush his crosses quite frequently. And if you're sitting there at the, after an opening weekend and your biggest critique of the performance was, well, Trent didn't really cross the ball very well for pretty much the entire first half. He kept rushing that. Then it's a pretty good opening weekend. But I did think that it really showed quite a bit. Either just the little bit of more maturity on Andy's side, or just maybe the freshness on Andy's side compared to Trent coming out of the World Cup and everything.
I I wouldn't even say that they were bad crosses. I mean, they weren't completely accurate, but Mane was making those back post runs all game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was the correct read. It's just there were at least 3 or 4 of them that went out the back of behind the goal. You know, that's all I meant. And that on the flip side, on the flip side of that, you know, Andy didn't really. The offense ran through Trent a lot more in the first half than it did on the other side of things. And there was one moment in which Andy got it very quickly on that quick press and was able to send it straight in for the first goal, you know. And so you see the if you're talking about that's the only complaint, though, the only critique I have, then not bad. Not a bad opening weekend at all. We do have the second match day to look forward to, though, against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace also winners this past weekend. Also not going up against very intimidating competition. But also Crystal Palace being a team that surprisingly we were able to get 2 victories over last season, which is really rare in recent memory. But, you know, it's exciting looking forward. This is a squad that has given us some issues in the past few years that always seems to have someone, let's say like Zaha, who, you know, is the type of player that really causes us a headache. But maybe this is a different matchup this season than it has been. Alex, what do we have to look forward to when it comes to that trip down to lovely Selhurst Park?
Yeah, this is a team that, especially considering it's been one of our bogey teams for the past few seasons, is not one that you necessarily want to play at the beginning of the season, because what they're doing isn't too complicated, and they've added some better pieces to their puzzle, and they can find a way to sneak a result. They weren't necessarily that much better than Fulham this weekend. I watched a lot of that match, and Fulham definitely should have had a penalty. And they were doing the same thing they had been doing in the championship. They were just up against better people. So I don't think we have that much to be worried about, apart from when we play at weird times, I guess you could say, when it's not like the afternoon or late kickoff on a Saturday. We can struggle sometimes, and it seems like a cop-out, but you've seen it every time we have an early kickoff, we struggle. And I don't know if the Monday kickoff will give us any issues. It shouldn't, because it gives us more time to train, gives Fabinho more time to get fit / not sick anymore. So I'm not worried necessarily, but this is one we can't walk into and think we're going to be fine. We just crushed a team last week. This team isn't necessarily that much better. And we're going to win just because of who we are. And I don't think we're the type of team to do that just based on the atmosphere around the club. But we have to be switched on, and we have to stay the course no matter what happens. And we have to watch out for Zaha on the counter. And I know Will isn't here, but Will would say that Zaha is a great player and we should sign him, but we have to watch out for him right now.
I mean, I'm not necessarily going to disagree with that. He would be nice to have as a depth guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he would want to go somewhere where he wouldn't be, able to start, able to play every match whenever he wants to, do whatever he wants to do, like he does at Palace. Andrew, we're still in the process of ironing out exactly what our starting 11 is really going to look like for the season. Obviously, giving some players like Jordan Henderson a bit of more time to recover and not making him play a full 90, just bringing him in to get a home field welcome and then letting him kind of finish the match. What do you expect to see? What are you thinking we will do as far as the lineup goes for this next match, as far as shuffling it around? Who do you think you would see in the starting 11? Or do you think we'll kind of keep it the same for this first or for the second week here?
I really don't think we're going to deviate. If anything, maybe put in Shaqiri or Henderson. If Henderson starts, it'll he'll play over Milner, and I think that's just a pity start because Milner obviously deserves to start every single game.
Now, have you ever seen a better player than James Milner? Because I don't think I have.
No, JM7. I mean,
JM7.
he's got a whole brand. So, I think we'll probably stick to the same lineup. If it's not the exact same lineup, it will be very, very similar. I'm in between this podcast and the game. We'll probably have 17 injuries.
Right. Somehow, whatever Fabinho had that was making him ill is going to spread throughout the entire camp. It's going to be like a zombie outbreak movie, actually. Yeah. Like we're going to wander out, and the starting 11's just going to have bloodshot eyes and just be trying to eat all the Crystal Palace players.
Yeah, I mean, these games are the games that we absolutely have to win this year.
Yeah.
You know, we can go out, give away a couple every now and then, but like these are the games that we really have to focus and win because these are the ones that we've really had the issues with.
Yeah.
And Man City plays, I mean, I don't want to say that the three coming up, I think Wolves and Fulham will be pretty good, but their next 6 games are all terrible until they play us.
Right.
Like Newcastle, Wolves, Fulham, Cardiff, Brighton, us. I mean, so it's just like they aren't Huddersfield this weekend. Right. They aren't playing anyone. So we've got to get 3 points, 6 games straight, play Man City, go to them, and win.
Yeah, I think they're playing all of the newly promoted teams and then all of the promoted teams from last year all in a row.
Yeah, and then they play us at Anfield.
I'm going to have to look at this because that sounds insane, especially when you compare it to our schedule where it's like we got Palace, we got Brighton, and we got Leicester, Tottenham, Southampton, and Chelsea over the month of September. Like, that's not too friendly when you compare it to what City's got, which is loading it up right now. Yeah. Huddersfield, Wolves, Newcastle, Fulham, Cardiff, and Brighton. Yep. They're playing Huddersfield and Brighton and Newcastle. Yeah, you got it, Alex. That's incredible. They're playing. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they paid somebody to get that schedule worked out?
Well, they had to.
Like, that is very convenient for them. All right, good for them. Alex, we have obviously a few things to worry about with Palace. We've mentioned a player like Zaha, who always seems to just be the type of guy who knows how to play against us. Palace has, in the recent memory, been a team that just kind of does know how to frustrate us. Even last season, we had a 1-0 and a 2-1 victory over them. So right here, what are you expecting to see? And give us a scoreline prediction.
I'm expecting it to be tough. We're going to have to be very careful on the counter. That's what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to invite us on and then hit us on the break with pace. And we'll have to be very careful around the box because from direct set pieces, they have one of the low-key better free kick takers in the league. Milivojevic is stone cold from over 18 yards in that like 18 to 35 yard space and at penalties. So we cannot afford to do that and give them a chance to take any more points than 0. That was a very bad way to put that. But we can't afford to give them any points because that's how, if they get any points, it's going to be because we give them to them, not because they earn them. So I think it's going to be difficult and they'll defend well, but we'll break them down. We have the weapons we need to get through these parked buses. I think this is going to be another match where you see the genius of Naby Keita coming up against that kind of defense. He'll drive at them. He'll cut through them. He can pass through them intelligently or he can just dribble through them. And that's going to be hugely valuable. Plus, we have options off the bench now in case we're not getting it done with the starting 11. So I'm confident. I just want to go out there and see us take care of business very comfortably like we did in the first match. I'm thinking 2-0. Because with Van Dijk and Allison, we're never conceding again.
All right, Andrew, what are you thinking, and what's your prediction?
The last two in a row. So this one and last podcast, Alex took my scoreline prediction. So
He's got a gift.
Last time, what did you say, Alex?
Wait, for this match?
No, for last match.
Yeah, I said 3-0. You
said 3-0.
I mean, I said 4-0 with Mane scoring twice and Salah and Sturridge.
Mm-hmm. You were very accurate. In fact, you said that it would be Sturridge's first touch, and we all laughed at you.
And he would break the dance back out.
Yeah. And then you said Klopp is gonna look like he's jacking off.
Yeah. I even showed you.
Yeah, it was crazy. You did the same exact thing.
Yeah, demonstrated for us.
So last time you said 3-0, and I went down to 2-0, and we won 4-0. So this time you're saying 2-0. Instead of going down to 1-0, I'm going to go up 3-0.
Which means that we're going to win 1-0. Right?
No, we're going to win 3-0.
Okay.
And the goals are going to come from James Milner, Firmino, and Salah. 2 James Milner assists.
Of course. We're going to call it that's the James Milner hat trick right there.
Yeah.
A goal for himself, a couple of assists, and then 1 bleeding skull. It's going to be great. I don't want to point out that I did predict 5-0 last week, and we were all kind of like, haha, yeah. And then it ended up being 4. So I feel pretty good about myself. I won 6. Yeah. Last time around, when I look at the two teams, comparing the two teams, one thing that stands out to me is that, Crystal Palace still has Wayne Hennessy in goal. That's always going to stand out to me, that Wayne Hennessy is one of the most error-prone men I've ever seen, outside of any of the English national keepers. And so you compare it to, Fabianski, like none of the goals really were anything that Fabianski could really do much about last week. It was like perfect placement. It just was the right things. It was his defense letting him go. He wasn't terrible. But then I always think about the fact that it seems whenever we go up against Palace, Hennessy has like the best match that he has of the entire season, which is so frustrating, so annoying. But Alex, I'm with you on this one. Kind of all the momentum is on our side. We should go out there and be able to control this. If they score anything, it is because we let them score. I like your assessment on that. I'm going to stick with it. 5-0 victory. Sticking with it. That is the Napoli special, is what we call that scoreline.
If I had to guess, I'd say Joseph, Zach, and Will would say 3-1.
They would. I'm trying to think. I think Zach would say that Salah gets all 3. And then Will would say that it was all Firmino. Firmino gets all 3. I think they would both predict hat tricks, but that they would predict different players to have the hat tricks. So yeah, guys, let us know when you listen to us blindly guessing what it is that we think you would predict. Let us know if we got it right, because I think we did.
Yeah. Comment below. Will and Zach, fellow members of this podcast who could not join us on this recording session, smash that like button. Comment below.
Hit that bell.
Share with all your friends. All that good stuff. Hey, actually, if any of you are listening to this and you want to tell us your thoughts on the match, on the upcoming scoreline predictions against Palace, on the performances of players like Naby Keita, Alisson Becker in their debuts, even the few minutes that we got to see the glorious Xherdan Shaqiri, the Cube himself. Let us know what you think moving forward. How would you assess this match and what you think you'll see against Palace? Whew.
Tweet at us the scientific explanations of how so much childlike wonder fits in just a stocky body that Shaqiri has. It looks so weird to see someone so muscular acting like a little kid.
He's just
And
so
I love
excited.
it.
I love that Naby Keita adds a dimension for us, and that Shaqiri adds a third dimension.
Love it. And I love you guys for being on this show with me. That's going to wrap up this episode of You'll Never Talk Alone. We're excited to have the season going. Be sure to stay tuned. We're going to have some more material, of course. Our like I mentioned, our predictions on which of the promoted teams stay up, if any, and what teams get relegated. It's a tradition. And we're going to do some more fantasy episodes moving forward as the season gets a little bit more underway. Did everyone's fantasy team do pretty well?
I did okay.
Better than yours.
You did.
Loser.
You did do better than mine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well.
Yep. Cool 12th place right now.
What am I? 15th?
It actually goes Alex 11, me 12, Zach 13, you 14, and Will is 18.
Oh, man.
So, it's probably because we have
just a
all
little
the
bit
same
better, so
players.
all the podcast members can be in a row.
It's because we just bounce all of our ideas off of each other and end up having the same exact
Same team. Except for Will, who very clearly didn't listen to any of our conversations.
Yeah.
Come on, Will. All right, that will do it for this episode. Andrew, are you prepared to sign us off this time?
I don't know. Like, sometimes I wonder if, like, anyone's actually ever really listening to me. You know, it's, like, hard to tell. I don't ever get any feedback. I need the comments. I need the likes. I need the subscribing. I need a deeper understanding.
Yep, you're right. Thanks, Andrew. See you guys next time.